Tiger Woods is in the fight of his life, and it has nothing to do with golf. After a car crash, a DUI arrest, and weeks in a treatment facility overseas, the greatest golfer of his generation is battling something far bigger than any opponent he ever faced. And now, one by one, the biggest names in the sport are finally breaking their silence. Here's the full story. To understand why the entire golf world is speaking out right now, you have to understand just how dark the last 2 years have become for Tiger Woods. This is not a story about a slump or a missed cut. This is the story of a man whose life has been collapsing in slow motion, piece by piece, while the public watched and wondered how much more one person could possibly take. It started on the course. In July of 2024, Tiger played the Open Championship at Royal Troon and shot rounds of 79 and 77 to miss the cut, admitting afterward that he did not know how many Opens he had left in him. It would turn out to be his last competitive round on the PGA Tour. 2 months later, he underwent his 6th back surgery, a procedure to relieve the nerve pain that had been tormenting him. He talked about getting back to normal. He never got the chance, because in February of 2025, his mother, Coltida Woods, passed away. This was the woman who introduced him to golf, who stood behind the ropes at virtually every major he ever won, the single most constant presence in his entire life. He withdrew from the tournament he was hosting that week, and those close to him said it was one of the hardest stretches he had ever endured. Then, just weeks later, while training at home, his left Achilles tendon ruptured completely, requiring yet another surgery. That made it 8 major operations in 15 years for a body that had already given everything it had. He played 0 PGA Tour rounds in all of 2025. The only competitive golf he had left was indoor simulator golf in the league he co-founded. And then, in October of 2025, came surgery number 7 on his back, a lumbar disc replacement, an artificial disc to replace the one his body had worn out. In December, he quietly turned 50 years old. The man who had once seemed invincible was now a 50-year-old grandfather of the sport, held together by surgical hardware and sheer willpower. And then came the night that changed everything. On March 27, 2026, Tiger rolled his vehicle on a road in Jupiter, Florida. He was arrested and charged with driving under the influence. But here is the detail that turned concern into genuine alarm. He had not been drinking. He blew triple zeros on the breathalyzer. What authorities reported finding were painkillers, hydrocodone, the very same medication that had been managing the relentless pain from 7 back surgeries, a ruptured Achilles, and a 2021 car crash that should have ended his career on its own. And it was not the first time. His 2017 DUI had also been a painkiller-related incident. Suddenly, this was no longer a story about injuries. It was a story about dependency. 4 days later, Tiger released a statement unlike anything he had ever written. He acknowledged the seriousness of the situation he was in. He said he was stepping away from golf for a period of time to seek treatment and to work toward, in his words, lasting recovery. He pulled out of the 2026 Masters. A court granted him permission to travel abroad, and he checked into an intensive inpatient treatment facility in Zurich, Switzerland, for roughly 6 weeks of treatment described as addressing years of painkiller use. The greatest golfer of his generation was in rehab. Quick pause. If you are rooting for Tiger Woods the person, not the golfer, just the human being, type praying for Tiger in the comments. If you believe he still has one more comeback left in him, type never count him out. I read every single one. And this is the moment when the golf world stopped staying quiet, because for years, the conversation around Tiger had been about records, about comebacks, about whether he could ever win again. Now the people who know him best made it clear that none of that matters anymore. The first and loudest message from his peers was simple: forget the golf, we care about the man. No one captured that better than Bubba Watson, the 2-time Masters champion, who spoke about Tiger purely as a human being, rather than as a competitor. Watson said he could not care less about Tiger's golf, that from the very first time they started spending time together nearly 20 years ago, he told Tiger he was pulling for him as a person. Forget the trophies, forget the legacy, forget the wins. To Watson, the only thing that mattered was that his friend got healthy. Coming from a major champion, that shift in tone said everything about how serious the people inside the game understood this situation to be. The PGA Tour itself broke its silence within hours of Tiger's announcement, and the wording was telling. The tour called him a legend, whose impact extends far beyond his achievements on the course, but then made a point of saying that above all else, Tiger is a person, and that their focus was on his health and well-being. They pledged their full support as he took this step. For an organization that has built a huge part of its modern identity around Tiger Woods, choosing to lead with his humanity rather than his stardom was a powerful signal of how the entire sport was choosing to respond. The support poured in from across the golf community. Popular golf personality Paige Spiranak spoke for a huge portion of fans when she said that everyone is rooting for Tiger, not as a golfer, but as a person. She made the point that none of us can truly fathom what he has been through, both emotionally and physically, and while she was careful not to excuse any behavior, she hoped he could get the help he needed in peace, without the entire world piling on a man in a genuinely difficult moment. And that became the central theme of how the legends and peers of the game responded. Not judgment, not lectures, not focus on whether he would ever lift another trophy. Instead, a near-universal acknowledgement that what Tiger Woods is going through is at its core a human tragedy, and that the appropriate response is compassion. The man carried the entire sport on his back for the better part of 3 decades. He made everyone around him richer, more famous, and more watched. The people who benefited from the Tiger Woods era are now, almost to a person, saying the same thing: we owe him grace. There is a deeper conversation happening underneath all of this too, and the more thoughtful voices in golf have started to raise it. This is a story about chronic pain. Tiger Woods has undergone more major surgeries than most people will have in a lifetime. When a body is in that much pain for that many years, the line between managing it and depending on the medication that manages it can become dangerously thin. Many in the game have pointed out that what happened to Tiger is something that happens to countless people who are never famous, athletes and ordinary people alike, who get hurt, get prescribed powerful medication, and find themselves trapped. The difference is that Tiger has had to live every chapter of it under a global spotlight, with body camera footage and arrest reports and headlines documenting his lowest moments for the entire world to dissect. That is part of why the reaction from his peers has been so protective. They understand, better than the public can, what the toll of that life actually does to a person. They watched him win on a broken leg. They watched him compete with nerve damage. They watched him refuse to quit long past the point where any sane competitor would have walked away. And now they are watching the bill for all of that come due, and instead of turning away, the biggest names in the game are standing beside him. What makes the response even more striking is how much it has matured since the last time this happened. Back in 2017, when Tiger was first arrested in a painkiller-related DUI, the reaction was very different. There was mockery, there were jokes. The infamous mugshot became a punchline that circled the internet for weeks, and plenty of people treated it as the final, embarrassing collapse of a fallen icon. Nearly a decade later, the tone has completely changed. The golf world appears to have learned something in the years since, watching Tiger climb back to win the 2019 Masters before injury and loss tore him down again. This time there are no punchlines from his peers, there is only concern. That shift, from ridicule to compassion, says as much about how the sport has grown as it does about Tiger himself, and it is a quiet sign that the people in golf finally see the difference between a scandal and a human being in real pain. There is also a quieter heartbreak running alongside all of this. While Tiger was working through his own treatment, his girlfriend Vanessa Trump revealed that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. By multiple accounts, Tiger has been deeply focused on supporting her through it, with one source saying he is proud of how strong she has stayed, and that he believes she is going to be okay. So even as he fights his own battle, he is trying to be a source of strength for someone he loves, who is fighting hers. After his 6 weeks of treatment, he returned home to Florida in mid-May, and then, rather than rushing back to a golf course, he reportedly flew back to Europe, continuing his own recovery while standing by Vanessa during hers. As for golf itself, the future is genuinely uncertain, and for once, almost no one in the sport seems to care about that part. Tiger quietly filed registration paperwork that would allow him to play the U.S. Senior Open this summer if he chooses, and he still holds exemptions into every major event on the PGA Tour. The competitive door is technically still open, but he missed the Masters, he missed the PGA Championship at Arnhem, his 6th straight major absence. And the message from the legends of the game is unanimous. The golf can wait. The golf does not matter. What matters is whether Tiger Woods, the human being, can find his way back to solid ground. That is what makes this situation so different from every other Tiger story we have followed over the years. For decades, every conversation about him was about greatness, about the next record, the next win, the next impossible comeback. This time, the people who know the game best are not talking about any of that. They are talking about a man they care about, who is hurting, and they are choosing, almost without exception, to lift him up, rather than tear him down. The greatest golfer of his generation gave the sport everything he had, his body, his health, and in many ways his entire life. Now, in his darkest and most human moment, the golf world is finally giving something back, not applause for what he won, but compassion for what he is surviving. And maybe, after everything, that is exactly the kind of support that actually matters. If this one meant something to you, drop a like before you scroll away. It is the single biggest thing that tells the algorithm to push these stories to other golf fans who might never see them otherwise. And subscribe if you want more of these, the kind that look past the headlines to the human story underneath. There are more coming.